So I want to create a balance of verticals and horizontals. This is my main trunk, my main dark shape. And this is the center around here. And I will keep it central vertically, but definitely not horizontally, as I want to keep an open space over here to kind of, so the tree's kind of moving towards the light. That's kind of my symbolism behind that, I guess. And then with the trunks, as they move up, it's important to space them at in uneven ways. So this is very close, and then this one over here will be of a different distance and further away, and you get nice movements. And most of the branches will be leading you up here. We can have one taking your eye through here. Now, more importantly is this bush, which is very light and comes through, makes this lovely diagonal shape here. So there's the diagonal shape, and I'll darken that around it to make it more obvious. So we have this diagonal. We can have a kind of diagonal just here and here. So it's a kind of making this shape over here, and there's a relationship happening. And then to complete the diagonals or movement of the eye, you can have a light passage coming through here and darken this area. And that creates an interesting movement for the eye through the painting, and maybe some branches can lift the eye up to here. So yeah, it's about having a balanced composition and leading the eye in ways that create movement and interest. So I will start, I don't use the pencil too much, but just to get the basic structure of what I'm going to paint. I'm going to start with the sky. I'm not going to go very intense blue, even though it is quite blue in the sky, because I know that probably won't work for my purposes. And I like to use the Chinese brushes. And I've just mixed the primaries, red, yellow and blue, together to make a kind of purplish grey. And I'm just going to mix it all together. And I want this to be soft. Just some suggestions of trees in the distance there. These brushes are very good. They are Chinese, and they are wolf inside to give it a bit of firmness, and sheep hair to make it very absorbing of the water. So it holds a lot of water and keeps its shape well. So I like to keep it quite wet in there. Now we're getting to the dark just next to here. I'm going to switch to this brush and get some green and red, which neutralize each other a bit. I find it's important to step back from your work when you're painting it, so I don't get too close, and I always like to hold the brush on the end. Wait. And then the colors, I just try to vary from warm to cool. So I'm just gonna try and get that shape as good as I can of the light coming through. And here is going to be my burnt sienna. And then I just at the bottom let watercolour do its thing really. I'm not too worried about it. I think areas where you've touched less, especially where they're not important, really work better than just working into it and working into it. Right. And then we have this rail in yellow. The paper's drying quite quickly because it's very sunny today. And now I'm going to come in and darken around. This will all lighten a lot after it's dried. And that's when I'm going to apply the dark branches after it's dried, so I can get it darker and create the light there more strong. I'm using a mixture of edges, hard and soft. Right. There is quite a lot of colour actually, and I'm not too keen on too much colour. So I'm just going to get rid of some of this. So we're basically at the end of the first layer. We have to wait for it to dry. I'm just going to add some splashes which will lighten certain areas. I'm especially interested in creating the splashes in the foreground, and we're basically there. I'm trying to change the hue so I get a variety of different hues. And with the strokes themselves, it's good to have to have very confident strokes, which isn't always possible. I'm going to add in some leaves. And this is how we get the lost and found edges. I'm just trying to make this area interesting. Lots of things happening there. Let's add some warm green droplets. We're getting there. I'm going to include some more branches just in this top part. It's good to have some rough brush strokes, some more refined brush strokes, a range of different brush strokes. That's a good line to lead the eye into that area. I'm going to break it up a bit. Ooh, that's too red. And we're basically there. Decided to darken a little bit this area here. And we can make this really helps to give some vibrancy to the work and create some details, is to scratch out the paint and create these light lines, which is like the light side of the branch. It's still too wet there, so it kind of dries over very quickly. I'm going to add just a little bit more dark down there, just to make the shape a little bit better. I'll get some rough edges down there. And let's get a nice light going through the dark there. And let's get some sharp edges there. What was I going to do? Ah, yes. This one branch is very dark. Let's break this shape up a bit. And we can lastly splash a bit. And maybe we have to do something with that foreground. Difficult. Right, I'll just add one more warm burnt sienna. Let's see what happens. And maybe it's getting to that dangerous time now when you start to hear the voice which says you're overworking it. So I better stop there with some, there, break it up a bit. So yeah, there's a lot of diagonals happening here. I'll take it back to the studio at some point and really look and see if it was successful or not. But yeah, it's about moving the eye in diagonal ways through here to here, and then up to this passage here. So it's trying to create a successful piece as a whole, really. So this one is interesting because you have two major elements. You have this birch tree, which is my immediate focal and my reason of painting here. And then you have this. And I remember the first time I actually painted here, I was distracted between the two, and what you do is you end up dividing the paper in half because you have one interesting thing and you have another interesting thing like that. And if you paint them the same, then you won't know where to look, whether at this one or at this one. And the page, and you could easily split the page in half and say that's a painting and that's a painting. So we don't want to do that. I'm just going to check the temperature of the light around by putting an object on my white paper. And I can see that the shadow is very cool, which tells me that the light is warm. If it was the opposite, if the light was cold, the shadow is usually warm. It is warm. And so here is going to be my main focal point, my major focal area, right there in the page. It's not, I mean, the center of the page is roughly here, so I might move it a little bit further over here in the painting, but there's my major focal point. And as a general rule, I like to make the major area stand out by having the highest contrast. So this will be the white of the paper along with the rest of the white light here, and I'm just going to make the darkness. And there is actually, if you look, there's a very dark branch just behind there, which we can use to make this area very, very dark. And painting is all about creating hierarchy. It's about creating areas of more importance than other areas. And here is some reflected light along here, and that is the reflected light of the warm undergrowth there. So that is slightly dark, and in fact when I squint my eyes it appears to me darker than this area here. So there's a lot of interesting contrast happening. So what are we going to do with this? This is going to be my kind of horizontal point there, and it will be lighter than here. So here is going to be all dark, and because this diagonal is coming down here, I think I might have to create a kind of diagonal shape that comes down there, and I'm going to use a bit more artistic license with this one. I think maybe I'll even change the colors to gray them a bit. I have yet to decide, and I'll just So this is the basic sketch. I'm going to really simplify this one, and there's some branches coming off there. I can scratch them away, and there are some light things. I want to, because although these dark parts on the tree are quite equally placed all along, I will actually just not do that. I'll just have one or two maybe up here, not too many, and have maybe one which really stands out over here in the light. So I'm simplifying it a lot to fit my requirements, my needs, of what I think will make this painting successful. We have a branch there, and maybe we can have one interesting light branch coming through the darkness there towards the, again, quite light area up there. Yeah, so we're using the same metaphors in a way. And the foreground is, I'm going to ignore most of it actually. Here is it'll be a hard line there, but we can soften it in some areas there. So I've decided to keep the colors basically very close to what's there. I would just mute it a tiny bit. There can be a suggestion of a cloud there. It's always good to leave just little light white elements, which always give a sense of vibrancy and light. I'm just gonna pick this up slightly. One thing I didn't mention before, but it's so vital to look at your subject and squint at it, because that gets rid of so much information, and then you get to see the major shapes, because it's so easy to get distracted with what you see. There's so much of it. So it's not about seeing a tree, it's about seeing shapes. Putting in those shapes in the correct way to create the appearance of a tree. So we have this nice sharp edge, and there above is going to be nice and dark. Although you can paint all the light areas and then put the dark on top, I like to preserve the natural color. This is best done by leaving that area light, the white of the paper, and going on top with the dark. And this way you also get a natural blend. So I also have a kind of movement coming down to here, which I want to keep. I think it will be quite successful. And I'm just going to soften that area just there, I think. Always good to have a sprayer. And let's get the light up here. Coming through there. I have a bit of light there. So those are the basic shapes that I want to keep. And I will lose some of this there by softening it. I will also lose some of this. So the major shapes for me already are really working, so we're off to a good start. So I'm going to start with the reflection, but first, this is very light. It's very light, and I'm not sure. I'm just going to darken it a tiny bit more. There's an artist who I'm a great fan of, Chin Wei, and his philosophy is major element, minor element. This is going to be my minor. I hope it's obvious. If it's not, I'm damned. This is my minor. Major, minor. And jumper. Jumper is usually a diagonal which connects the major and the minor, especially if they're far apart. In this case, they're not very far apart, which is good. That's a bit better. That is a bit better. Let's fade it out. Okay. We'll add one more. Okay. Moving on. So we're going to move on to our reflected light area, which is here, which is a bronzy reddish color. I'm going to get that in. This can be, I'm getting a cool warm interplay here. It's quite cool. That's good. It's a purpley color. Yeah. Like so. And I'm going to continue this, going all the way up. and it will get lost up there. So this is our reflected light area, and we can just soften this edge so that we have hard edge, soft edge. Okay, so there's the reflected light which creates the round shape. I'll just add a little bit more color in there so it gets really interesting. A little bit of red. There. There needs to be darkness there. I'm going to blend it in while it's wet. The whole painting is looking a little bit light for my liking. Yeah. So that edge blends in nicely, and then remember to lose this edge here. Use some of that and get some nice rough in there. Rough and hard. Right, now moving on. I'm going to, it's actually red there, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep that bit light because I want it light. But I am going to add some red in there, some red in there. Okay. Let's get on. Let's finish this off a bit, so then we can see how it looks compared to the rest. So to finish it off, I'm going to add some darker elements. There. I'm using very thick paint so that it doesn't blend too much. And there we have a shadow going all the way up and down. We can just actually create a nice rough texture, and that will be attractive. And what to do? Okay, maybe some roughness in there. Okay, and boom. Right, don't want to overwork that bit too much. It's standing out a bit too much there, so let's connect it to the rest of the barky tree. Okay, that's good. And let's add some more, but remember what I said, not too many, because that would just kill it. Okay, and I'm going to darken this area slightly. Add a little bit more. A little bit more contrast there. Right, what does this painting need now? Right, that's fine. So I'm going to continue this green over there, just like that. It's right if it's rough, that's fine, because the beauty is not in the realism, but in the composition and the variety of brushstrokes that can be created. That's where the beauty is. For me, that's what I'm interested in. I'm going to scratch out some light parts there. If you do it too wet, it's not good, because the water will just, like it's doing there, it will start to go over the scratch and just make a dark mark. All right. So I've realized I need to unify this painting a little bit more, because it's getting very bitty. It's getting too many small shapes that need connecting. So I'm going to start trying to connect some of those shapes and making bigger shapes right there. That's a big shape that creates a nice horizontal. All right, and we need some more of that really. We need some, because when I look through my mirror, yeah, I can see something missing. Of course there is. That's a bit better. Yeah. And now we need some darkness there to create just more interest coming down here. Might have to soften it a little bit. I do really like hard edges, and I think they're really nice, but I might have to soften that a bit. When I soften it, it will also lighten the color, which might not be such a good thing, but anyway. Taking some ultramarine blue and some Van Dyke brown. Mixing them up nicely. All the water's over there, so I want to avoid that. And I'm gonna make a branch that reaches out into there, like so, and connects this area to this. And this is too less happening there, so I want to create a branch going through there, more interesting. So. Maybe this part, just above here, needs to be lightened. That's not good, because that would drip straight down into the painting. Just a bit of softness in there. Okay, it's starting to work for me. Let's just create a few more scratches. Right, it's about. Yeah, scratches can really, they can go both ways. They can really ruin a painting and also make it look nice. But I use them. This here, there's a gap, which I'm not fond of anymore. So I'm going to break that gap. One quick stroke like that. And let's create something interesting. Just a dark shape somewhere here. Like that, like that, like that, and like that. Okay. And there is this mound there. And a bit of darkness in there. I want to darken the main focal area so that it stands out a little bit more. That means I have to lose that nice effect there, which I have done. It looks very dark and not part of it now, but it will lighten. And that creates a need to darken this area here, just to balance out the painting a little bit. Okay. We can have some light going through there, like so. Just a suggestion of a branch, which we can complete over here. This one is pretty much there. Anything more, I'd want to stop and look at it in the studio maybe, and maybe do a bigger one there, taking into account some of the successes and some of the weaknesses of this. Okay, we're there. Okay, last bit. Darken. Okay, darken. Let's get the mirror out. It's there. It has some of the elements that I need. And I will lighten this here. Okay. Let's create one line. Oof, anything at this point is dangerous. All right, better leave it. Better leave it. If I want to do a better one, I can do it in the studio. We have this scene here. I have actually painted this area, this scene a few times, and I've only had success when I've completely excluded the background, but I will give it a go again. So let's see what we can do. I am first looking for the major shapes. This is going to be a high key painting in the sense that most of it will be quite light, but the darkest part will stand out. And the darkest part is going to be roughly 2/3 from the right, and it's going to be the interesting bark textures coming across this birch tree here. That's going to be what I hope to attract all the attention of this painting. So this area here is going to be my darkest point, and I will actually have an area which I want to highlight as the focal point, which is really one specific area, which is this side over here. And the way I'm going to do that is by having a light area just over here, a very light green color, and the rest will be a darker green around it. So here's my very light shape, and then I'm going to kind of have some nice hard edges through here, because I think it's going to be important to really vary the edges with this painting. And I'm going to have a big light shape roughly coming like so. So you have this big light shape here and a smaller light shape there. It will have maybe one or two branches to suggest forestry in the background. But that is basically the crux of this painting. And as to the rest of it, I'm considering putting a big vertical across here, which will give a sense of perspective, because it's big and it will, create that sense of distance. And what I might do to make it less obvious is soften the edges there and make it a lighter color. So there will be some reddish hues in there, and I might even just let it blend in with there. I think that can be quite interesting. And some reddish hues there. And so this shape is actually taking the eye towards this diagonal, and then here is the main shape there. And there are some branches which are very useful. There's one particular diagonal which cuts through and leads the eye straight there, and that can be very useful as long as it's not overdone, because I see many diagonals going that way and that might be too much. And so I want to vary the distance. If I include another one, it shouldn't be equally in between. I might put it closer to here, and that will isolate this more and create it more interesting. Okay. So we're getting, yeah, it's good to get a strong idea of the whole before you start getting too bogged down with details and whatever. I'm not gonna worry too much about drawing around these shapes. I mean, this one I will probably cut around when I'm painting, but otherwise this edge can blend a little bit. That'll make that stand out more. But otherwise, these verticals or diagonals can easily be scratched out, and I will look to do that. So, and then, you know, there's some dark shapes. This one can be a little bit closer. It can go through there a little bit. So each is kind of 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I'll include another one. I've also decided that I will paint the background first and the foreground, the trees, later on. The reason is that the trees are basically darker than the background. Even though when I squint my eyes, they appear to me a little bit darker. So yeah, better to just simplify in that way. It will have to be soft. It's quite large. All right. So this, the bottom of this is here. So to create this a little bit closer, I'll move it down a bit to there. This one comes, then it goes. It's a lot of vertical right there. Don't know if I might have to lose some edges around there because it's not important. Some leaves going through there, and I want to guide the eye up there. That's perfect. So I have some leaves like that. It's just, the most important thing about these leaves is irregularity. I don't want them to be like, okay, there's maybe one, and that can unlock the whole thing, but all of them should have a variety of shapes, and that's important to me. Cool it down. Cool and warm, cool and warm. It was going down too much. So let's create a transition. So I'm just warming up the green to make it less green. Sometimes you can make something too obvious. I'm probably doing that. But we'll have some soft and some hard edges. I can be quite successful, hopefully. Okay. Okay. I better leave that. Move on to some of this. What's happening in here? Now this part here, we're just going to have to splash a bit because it's not important. We don't want the viewer to go there. It's uninteresting. Nothing happening. Go away. See? But it does need to be darker, I believe. Okay. I think this painting is about letting go and letting it happen. It's a little bit too dark in there. Let's get some blue. Sita. Okay, okay. I'm going to have to darken some areas to make this work. let's get a nice line happening there. I'm scratching a lot. Uh-oh. Okay, it's all about the bigger picture. Let's get some splashes. Okay, let's get some nice contrast happening there. Maybe we can lighten this here, like so. It's just something, I don't know what it is. Good work, worth a try. So we're there. It's quite a busy painting. It was quite a struggle. We need maybe 1 or 2 sharp lines in here. Maybe that would tell the viewer something.